What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm Daniel Oyefusi. That is David Neal. Thanks so much for tuning in. Quick reminder before we start, make sure to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald.
That one right there. Yeah.
That one.
Yeah.
Now, your Miami Dolphins bounced back from a tough week 4 loss in Buffalo with a convincing 15-point win at home over the New York Giants. They beat up on the lowly Giants to move to 4-1. And after the Buffalo Bills loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars over in London, Miami is back in sole possession of first place in the AFC East. So all is well in Miami Gardens after a really tough loss. The Dolphins look to extend that winning streak to 2, continue to stay atop the division with another lowly opponent, the winless Carolina Panthers. They come to town this Sunday, so the Dolphins are deep in their preparations for that. But we have a lot to discuss outside of the game. We got some breaking news earlier today regarding rookie running back De'Von Achane and a knee injury that he sustained late last week. The Dolphins made a trade for former Bears wide receiver Chase Claypool. So we've got some guys who might be on the mend, might be sidelined, some guys who might be coming and making their debuts this Sunday. But we're going to start with, as I said before, the news regarding Devon Achane, the exciting third round pick who has just been doing it all. I mean, 460 yards out the gate, second in the NFL. He's leading the NFL in yards per carry at 12.1. However, he did sustain a knee injury on Monday. Mike McDaniel said that the team was evaluating it, going through some tests and whatnot. News broke early Tuesday morning that he's expected to miss multiple weeks, and IR is also a possibility, and that would obviously sideline him for at least 4 games. So definitely a blow to what has been the most explosive offense in the NFL through 5 games. No team in NFL has accumulated more yards than these Miami Dolphins. And obviously, Achane has been a big part of it. We saw him have that 76-yard run against the Giants. We've seen the explosiveness that he's added to an already dynamic, fast team. It's going to be interesting to see how they kind of make up for his absence. We're going to talk to Mike McDaniel on Wednesday where we should get more clarity on it. But he really did add another element to this team, to this offense, especially in the run game. Obviously, Raheem Mostert is running the ball extremely well too. He had a pretty productive game. He's had a really productive start to the entire season. But with Achane, it just felt a little different. Like with that 76-yard run, the way we've seen him just get to the edge, really separate from defenders. It really was reminiscent of Tyreek Hill and the way that they've been using him now as kind of a wide receiver and whatnot. It was reminiscent of that. Obviously, they still got a couple guys on the active roster, with obviously Mostert, De'Von Achane, who was a healthy scratch, Chris Brooks, the rookie, and it looks like they might get Jeff Wilson Jr. back. His agent Drew Rosenhaus told WSVN that he's going to be returning to practice this week after spending the first 5 games on IR. So hey, obviously losing Achane is a tough blow, but you might get Jeff Wilson back, and he has obviously played really well last year. So I don't think that there's going to be a fall off with this offense per se, but no, I'm really interested specifically in the run game because he just had that home run threat. Like every single time he touches the ball, he might take it to the house. So really interested to see what they do. Maybe we kind of see more of the traditional run looks that they did last year. It's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, I think with he and Mostert you have that they both have that speed that obviously you give them a crease and they hit it and later. And he even more so than Mostert, which is pretty much saying something because Mostert's a fast guy and he's got some good size. It's also just I think it was a comforting option once Achane started to really play. He gets in the Denver game, he plays well. The Buffalo game, Mostert's got a couple of fumbles. It's so comforting as a staff, as a team, to say, okay, well, hey, maybe Raheem's not having a good day.
Yeah, we can turn to the rookie a little bit.
Right, we can hand this guy, and he can do a lot of the same stuff. And
yeah.
He has the same threat, and because he has that same threat, like we saw with the Packers the other night, that with Aaron Jones out, they ran the ball well, but it's a different kind of running game, and they didn't look comfortable as an offense. With Achane, it's the same kind of running game as with most. It's the same kind of threat. It's the same, it's the
Yeah.
same that same. Hey, you got to account for them. You can't, and you can't be lazy. You can't be, you can't get greedy. You can't. You have to have good discipline on defense. Control the gaps and all that stuff. And it just puts that pressure on a defense to where they think, I make a mistake here. It's not just we get gashed for 10, we get gashed for 15, 20. We getting gashed for 50. And, they're lining up for an extra point. That's a mental stress on a defense. That's a lot of mental stress on defense. It's already having to deal with, the wide receivers and some of the motion they're doing. It just creates another level of stress and I think he stressed the defense in a way that, as well as Wilson runs and ran last year when they gave him the opportunity,
Yeah.
they didn't
It's
get away from
just
the run much.
it's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it just creates that stress. And also it creates a little ease with the offense too. It's like, hey, if we do our jobs, we do what we're supposed to do, bam, he can hit it. And it gets everybody excited. It gets everybody a little more excited. But I think really the effect is definitely just on the defense. Just, you're a defender and you worry more about making a mistake. And when you have to worry more about making a mistake, you're either going to A, make a mistake, or B, you're just not going to play as fast. Ironically, when at a time you really need to play fast, and that creates the stress and the gaps, and suddenly he's going for 20 or 30, or you play action, they run him in some motion, and suddenly the ball's going
Yep.
the other way for 30, 40 to somebody else. He is, you can never have too much speed, but boy, it's it's a quick speed too. It's a his 0 to 60
It's
time.
track speed. It's true track speed.
Yeah, like they've got track guys who are also very good football players. And when we've seen throughout history, when you have that, that's something special. Track guys who are very good football players.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a fast. It's like bam, and you see he's got like that 76-yard run the other day.
Yeah, I kind of looked up and I'm like, oh, he's gone. Like I thought the safety was gonna get him at the edge, and then I looked down for a minute and looked back up, and he's racing to the end zone. That's just like blink of an eye. And
Yeah,
that's I don't want to say it's one of one because the Dolphins have Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, but the very few guys are capable of that in the NFL.
and right, and playing. I love the stat. I do like the stat of clocking the guys at like the next gen stats of how fast these guys are going, because 40 times, nice, that's great. I wonder how you are.
Yeah, with the
Let's tell
pads
me
on
about
game
that.
speed. Yeah.
Yeah, game speed. And when you got your helmet on, everybody, you got your pads on, you happen to hit a particular hole, or you happen to go a particular place and not just straight forward. Let's talk about that kind of speed. And when you look at the chart that everybody was sending around, by Sunday afternoon, the top like 7 speeds, something like that of
They're
the
all
year,
Dolphins players.
all
It's
Dolphin
been
guys.
adjusted a little bit. I think they do some post game corrections. I checked
Yeah,
earlier today, and now it's top 5 are Dolphins, and I think 7 of the top 10 are Dolphins. But still, they're
that's
one, two, three, four, five.
yeah, that's still, that's a different kind of stress on a defense, and it really does worry you. And so yeah, I think that it hurts. I don't think this is going to cripple the offense. I just think it takes a little bit away from the offense. But this offense, when it's running well, it you know gee, maybe they'll it'll take them a few more plays to score. If they have to make a 97-yard drive, it's not going to be 3 plays. It might actually be 5 or 6. You know, but yeah, he take the time, get healthy. Um, they've got guys. They've got guys who can do the job, and yeah, I think, and also let's be frank, they're playing Carolina this week. Um, it's an NFL team, but it's a winless NFL team with a rookie quarterback. So
Yeah,
we'll talk about that later.
my first thought when this news came, or I guess when McDaniel said they were evaluating him yesterday, my thought was, all right, he's definitely out this week, and then we'll see about Philly. But now it looks like it's multiple weeks. So they had another 500-yard performance against the Giants. They still got a lot of electric guys. But yeah, a little bit of drop off. Not maybe not as much juice with him out of the lineup. So we'll see. Again, we'll talk to Mike McDaniel on Wednesday, and then we'll definitely have updates on Achane status. We did not get to talk about this or we did not get to talk about this player last week because the Dolphins have not yet made this move. But last Friday, as they were, putting a bow on the preparation for the Giants, they made an interesting trade for former Bears wide receiver Chase Claypool. They acquired the wide receiver and also did some late round swaps with Chicago in order to make the deal happen. Very interesting. I was not expecting this. I was on my way to a doctor's appointment. I'm like, oh, Dolphins trade for Chase Claypool, but kind of taking a flyer on a very talented, still young guy, 25, I believe, who, kind of fell out of favor of Pittsburgh after a couple good years. Things just didn't work out in Chicago. He recently kind of criticized, the coaching staff's usage of him, and he was asked to stay at home. A couple of days later, he's traded. But the Dolphins essentially, want an expiring contract. They get a guy who, accumulated over 1,700 receiving yards in his first 2 years. He's a big body guy. They need some wide receiver depth because River Craycraft and Eric Ezukama are sidelined by some injuries, and we don't really have timelines for their return. What do you think about this move? Obviously, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle were 1A, 1B, 1-2. But you get another fast guy. He's 6'4", 4'4" type speed, and he's a big body target, kind of different from what they have. Do you think this is something, nothing, or maybe a little bit of something?
Yeah, it all depends on Mr. Claypool, I think. He's got to realize coming in, he's no fool. I don't think he realizes. Okay, these guys are popping along they have had a first 5 games like no offense in NFL history. So you can't exactly come in with the diva attitude because they clearly don't need you. I mean, they can use you and you can be an asset to them, but they clearly don't need you. Now he's great. He is the kind of wide receiver he's got the size that gives them another target, and especially in the red zone. He's got the ability. He's got all the physical tools to create matchup problems. Not just with speed but with size. And so that throwing that into a lineup with a bunch of wide receivers who are already creating and a scheme that's already creating a lot of headaches for a defense, that can't be anything but good depending on how he approaches it. None of us knows. None of us were in the locker room in Pittsburgh, none of us were in the locker room in Chicago. The only thing we know is this is the NFL. Look at some of the guys that teams have signed just because of their talent and some of the things they've overlooked, for talent. And Pittsburgh, now, which Pittsburgh does tend to be a little light on the drama. They only put up with like Le'Veon Bell and Antonio Brown for so much. Okay, that's a low drama organization, for decades. but the Bears trading for you, and then just over a year later saying,
And he traded a second round pick for him as well. So
yeah,
they invested a lot in him, and he's supposed to be one of those
they
kind of
traded a
young
second round
core
pick for him,
guys. Yeah,
and they said, and they need receivers for Justin Fields.
yeah,
He needs all the help he can get. So in the passing game at least, and they said, hey, stay home. Whatever that says, it doesn't say a lot good about what went on there. And obviously there's two sides to every story. Maybe the Bears have no idea what they're doing. You look at them play sometimes and you're thinking maybe they don't have any idea what they're doing. And so whatever got him moved along from Pittsburgh, which, if all was good there, they would not have traded him. That's
yeah,
and Chicago, where clearly it was, there were problems. Whatever those problems are, if the Dolphins clearly have said, hey, we don't care what those problems are, just don't bring it here. And if he doesn't, I mean, he's obviously very talented, and he'll be a tremendous addition to the offense. Which, like I said, it's not like they're being slowed down much anyway, but except for 1 week. But
yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
I mean, McDaniel did say that, hey, like in regards to whatever the preconceived notions might be about him, he said, hey, like he has a blank slate. He said, he had a very notable phrase that he likes to say, like I see better than I hear, so it's like, hey, we're gonna have a blank slate. You're gonna have an opportunity to create your own and carve your own reputation here. Obviously, the Dolphins have taken a lot of personalities in on the team, and I think that McDaniel has done well to kind of balance those and handle all the different personalities that there are on the team, and a lot of it is player produced as well. And he said, "Hey, like I believe in a player led team and a player led locker room." So obviously, I don't think that they were going to have a lot of issues with that. Honestly, I think that, like you said, he knows the deal. He's not here to be the number one target, the number two target, maybe not even the number three target. But I think that there is, I think it's definitely an interesting short-term play and a long-term play. Obviously I mentioned
yeah.
before he's entering the final year of his rookie deal. So, it's not like they're making a huge investment in terms of draft capital or salary. I think he's due like 2 point something dollars over the course of this year, maybe the rest of the year. So no significant investment. Like they could cut him now and not owe him any money on the rest of his rookie deal. But I think that there is an opportunity to maybe carve out a little niche role. Again, like just the uniqueness of his his body type, his skill set in this offense. I look at a guy like Ezukama, who really didn't have a ton of targets before his injury, but they found some creative ways to get him the ball. On an end around, they were lining him up in the backfield. They're using him as a blocker. So I think that you could do some similar things like that. And again, I mean, he's a talented guy. Like he can play. Like it's not a question of can he or can he not play. Again, he had 1,700 yards as a receiver in his first 2 years in Pittsburgh. So it's not like he's a scrub guy. He was a second round pick. So there's talent there. And now it's just kind of a matter of getting him in a system where you can, accentuate those talents. It's funny. He had a comment before, he was told to kind of stay away from the team, where he's like, I'm sure everyone would love to play on the offense with the most passing yards and but it doesn't work like that. He just kind of got lucky enough to be traded to the team that has the most passing yards and the most yards in the NFL. So it's going to be interesting. We haven't spoken to him yet. We speak to him. Well, I guess he'll be at practice on Wednesday. He was at the game on Sunday, but obviously didn't play. So I'm assuming he'll be at practice Wednesday. We might get an opportunity to speak to him afterward, kind of get his perspective of what happened in Chicago, his mindset now. I think there's a chance that he could play on Sunday. He's had, more or less 2 weeks or so, a little over a week
Right.
To learn the playbook. Maybe they get a little package for him. And again, they need some wide receiver depth. I mean, outside of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, they have Chosen, they have Cedric Wilson, and they have River Craycraft. But they like to rotate those guys in and out. So there maybe a
Did
package.
somebody shoot Braxton Berrios?
Did I mention Braxton Berrios?
No.
My bad. I think I said River Craycraft.
Yeah.
I meant Braxton Berrios. But yeah, but they need some depth at wide receiver, and again, maybe they think of a little package. If anybody can make fill out a role or find out or carve out a role for a guy, it's McDaniel. I mean, hey, we saw them put in Chris Brooks as a fullback tight end toward the end of the Giants game. So, going to be interesting to see what they do with Claypool, because I think that there is something there, and McDaniel has found ways to bring the best out of guys. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. We're gonna take a short break, but when we come back, we gotta discuss the Dolphins win over the Giants. How much do we take away from that win? What do they need to clean up? We're also going to preview their upcoming game against the winless Panthers. Is this a trap game ahead of a really, really big game against the Philadelphia Eagles in prime time? We're going to discuss that and more, so stay locked with us. What's going on, everybody? Still here on the Dolphins In Depth podcast with David Neal, talking all things Dolphins. Now, in the first half, we discussed the latest news regarding Devon Achane, who is reportedly expected to miss multiple weeks with a knee injury, as well as the team's trade late last week for wide receiver Chase Claypool. But now we're going to get into the Dolphins' last game, a 31-16 win over the New York Giants. I think the end result was what we all expected. I think I said 34 to 13, something like that. I think we all expected them to win by double digits. The manner in which they got to it, I thought was a little, unexpected. Obviously, they looked like they were going to go up by a couple scores before halftime. They're in the red zone. Tua throws a really bad pick six. Before you know it, it's 14-10. And going into halftime, the momentum swung back in the Dolphins' favor very quickly, though. Tua throwing a 69-yard pass or catch and run pass to Tyreek Hill. It turns out he went rogue, said forget Mike McDaniel, called his own play in the huddle. Regardless, all was good because it ended up in a touchdown. And from then, they kind of cruise on to win that game by double digits. I don't know if I take much from it, honestly. They did what they were supposed to do. I give credit to that. I said before, obviously, you want to make sure you clean up some stuff in these next two games against the Giants and Panthers before you get a little bit of a tough stretch with the Eagles. Then after the Patriots game at home, to go to Germany to face the Chiefs. So obviously you want to make sure that you're ready, healthy, and all where you need to be for those games. I will say the one thing that stood out to me is kind of the ball security. That's the one thing that I'm saying, like, they got to get that fixed. Obviously they fumbled twice, or Mostert fumbled twice in the Bills game. They fumbled twice again, Mostert once on the first drive, and then Achane lost the fumble for the first time in his career later in that game. And obviously two interceptions, one being a pick six. It's kind of uncharacteristic from him. I think he's up to 5 interceptions now. So I don't take too much into that, but that is something that I'm kind of watching out for, because before this Giants game, Tyreek Hill said the only thing that can stop this offense is ourselves. And truthfully, through the first month of the season, that's what it feels like. I mean, obviously the Bills game was a very well executed game plan, but the Dolphins had their own self-inflicted mistakes that hurt them. I mean, it really seems that the only thing that can stop them is themselves. Dumb penalties, turn the ball over in inopportune times. I will say the defense, I'm still kind of, the jury's still out on the defense. Like I really, they did what they were supposed to do. They kind of, filled up the stat sheet, filled up the box score against a bad. I mean, the Giants were missing 3 offensive linemen, and then at one point, I think they lost their starting center as well. They knocked Daniel Jones out the game. Like, they did what they were supposed to do. I think that by the end of the Chiefs game, and again, like, there's still a lot in flux. They might get some guys back. Nick Needham has been activated from the IR list. Jalen Ramsey, Mike McDaniel said, is on the positive side of a return. So, I don't want to, get fans' hopes up, but it looks like he's getting closer and closer to a return as we really dive into the heart of the fall. I think by the Chiefs game, we'll see like really where this defense is at. But, beating up against the Giants offense that doesn't have 3 starting linemen, I expect them to beat up on the Panthers offense. I don't take too much into that. Really, again, the standard has changed. I'm judging you by, top flight quarterbacks, top flight offenses, but credit to the Dolphins for doing what they were supposed to do against a lesser opponent.
If you're a very good team, and you think you're a very good team, well, guess what? You're not going to meet very many other very good teams on the schedule. Just not that many in the league.
Yeah.
So, and then you have a 17-game season. So most of your games are going to be against teams that you should beat. And a few of those games are going to be against teams you should squash. they the Giants are a team they should squash. The Panthers are a team they should squash. And yeah, except for a small slice of the game, right? Near the end of when you got the long pick six that swung the game back, and then then the Dolphins scored 10 points and they're up two score, 24-10. With the exception of that one moment, almost at 14-10, they squashed the Giants. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah.
They ripped off. They had big plays. They had big gains. They they did what they were supposed to do. They squashed a bad offense. They sat on them. Okay, that's what these guys are NFL players. It's not like you're going to automatically going to shut them out or something like that. But they allowed 3 field goals.
Yeah. I was gonna say the defense didn't allow a touchdown. The only touchdown came from the pick six. So like credit to the
right. And so
against the bad offenses, the Dolphins defense went up to the task.
Right, and that's what you're supposed to do. So give again, like you said, give a team credit for doing what they're supposed to do. But this is also how many games are there on this schedule that we're going to look at as the yardstick games? What, the 2 against the Bills, Philadelphia, Kansas City,
later in the season, maybe Dallas, Baltimore,
Dallas, so what, that's 5. There's 17, so that's 12 games where you should go out and handle your business. And some of those games, the Patriots have turned into a hot mess. You don't know what the Broncos were a hot mess, obviously. Because who have they beaten? They beat the Bears, who are it's dumpster fire versus dumpster fire in that one. And the Giants, the Panthers, so there's a lot of games on this schedule where the Dolphins, I forgot, except for the Chargers. The Chargers are a good team.
Chargers was also kind of a yardstick game, and they played well on offense for sure.
Right. Okay, that's 6 out of 17. So that's 11 games. It's probably that you should. There are Baltimore down in there down the line. So, but again, most of your games are going to be like this. If you're the Dolphins, if you're at that level, and if you think you're at that level and you really are at that level, most of your games are going to be like this.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, you got to play who's on your schedule, but it's like when I'm looking at the kind of the ways to distinguish the better teams and folks, like the manner in which you win. And again, it wasn't the most perfect game, but like you said, by and large, that game was never really a threat. There was never a time where I thought, the Giants really might be in this game. So they took care of business there. And as we preview this week 6 game, this is another game where you really got to take care of business. I think the Dolphins are 13.5-point favorites. Like
that's a huge spread in the NFL.
Yeah, they're head and shoulders better than the Panthers. I think even more so than this past week. This is a game where the Dolphins, like, early and often, they got to jump. Like, this game should be over by halftime, honestly. Obviously, you're facing a rookie quarterback. This is probably, outside of the Patriots, probably the worst group of skill position players that they've faced to date. I don't see anybody out there on the offensive side of the ball that really should threaten the Dolphins or really hurt this defense. And then obviously, if the offense jumps out to 2-touchdown lead, or even it's 10-0, then the defense can play a lot freer, off the natural flow of the game script. I think it's another one. I mean, it's like with the Dolphins, it's like 30 is kind of like a given. So it's like, I mean, I see this as, again, one of those 34-17 type games. 17 feels very generous for this offense. I think it's going to be a very tough afternoon for Bryce Young, the number 1 overall pick. But yeah, I think, multiple touchdowns I'm expecting. Now, the question is, do the Dolphins cover? And I think that they probably do cover.
Oh, yeah.
I think they probably do cover in that regard.
I like the Dolphins like I'm gonna go 45-17. Um, I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I think if they go out and do what they're supposed to do and do what looks like the matchups say they should do, this shouldn't be much of a game. And um, they, I don't think they should be caught looking ahead. Because
I don't believe in that, by the way. I don't believe in like looking ahead, like though we took them lightly. Like I don't like I feel like I don't know. I just feel I'm not a professional player, but I feel like maybe the week to week preparation isn't, or maybe the week to week focus isn't. Maybe you're not as dialed in like for a particular opponent. But it's like when you get out there, like the Dolphins have better players, the Dolphins have better schemes. Like they should go out and win this game. Like it shouldn't be like, oh, we took them lightly, or we
you,
were like, how do you look ahead when you have a game right there? I don't know. I don't
I,
really believe in that. And even Mike McDaniel said like there's no such thing as checking off wins or looking just kind of like mentally looking at wins in the schedule. Like I don't know. I don't think that's going to be a case for this team. But
I don't.
I think that's a
I
thing.
think players are human, and I think players are human. I think there is what's coming. They're not stupid. They know. Okay, yeah, Philadelphia after that, and that's they're a team that is of the echelon that you fashion yourself. Um, now, does that mean they don't? You know, is there just not? Is there just a little edge off the? Might there be a little edge off the preparation for Carolina? Maybe. And the thing is, it's not. I don't think it's entirely a looking ahead thing. I just think it's a little bit of their their edges. The edges are taken off. Like, things aren't done as sharply. Things aren't maybe maybe you don't learn that your film study isn't as sharp. Your practice may not be as sharp, or you just it's yeah, you're doing this on game day. Everybody's jacked up and ready to go, right? And it's you're ready for it, but you know not to be all Sun Tzu-y, but every battle's won before it's fought. And yeah, you got better guys. Yeah, you've got, but you know, we see it every year. There's games where you go, that team isn't as talented as the other team. Why did Dallas play like crap against Arizona? That's not a game that should have been close. I mean, yeah, the Cowboys the Cowboys got punked Sunday night, but that was San Francisco. San Francisco was punking everybody. That there's no reason Dallas should have, Arizona should have been in the same field with Dallas. And yet, look what happened. So I I don't know if it's just like complete. It's not this complete looking ahead, like, oh, you're not even looking at the Carolina Panthers film, or you're just not. It's that there's just a little bit of lack of intensity. Maybe the intensity's dialed down a little bit.
Yeah.
And if you get that dialed down enough a little bit in a 53-man roster in enough places, then you get into the zone where you're still a better team, but now you're in that, you're in that little danger zone where you're not prepared in the same way, and it makes you vulnerable. It's not a, complete, they're no, but it's just not it's not the same. And NFL teams do not prepare the same for every single game. They don't. Nobody does. Nobody in any sport does.
Yeah, I mean that's understandable. I would say Mike McDaniel, his staff, a lot of the players always talk about them being a process driven organization, doing the same thing that you do following a win, following a loss. So
Right.
I don't think that, looking ahead or whatever, maybe the intensity, I don't think that'll be a problem for them this weekend. You obviously don't as well because you're picking the Dolphins. We're both thinking that they're going
Yeah.
to prove to 5-1 ahead of a big game ahead of the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday.
But if you said, if this were a suicide pool, yeah, I'd probably still pick the Dolphins. And if it were like, a suicide pool, where you have to pick the one winner every week. But yeah, I'm not like betting my paycheck or something like that. I mean, yeah, I bet 100. But it's the NFL. I mean, these things happen. Like I say, every few weeks you get one of these games. You're like, how does that team lose to the other team? So but I don't think that's going to happen this week. And just because the Dolphins are that much better, and um, I think they're probably gonna be focused on, okay, let's go out and do the same thing we did last week, do it a little bit cleaner. Let's not fumble a couple times, let's not throw the interceptions, let's play a little bit better, and let's just play a little bit better. Let's be better, and let's go out and take care of business. So I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, they've said the right things. We spoke to some players on Monday. They said the right thing about approaching the game against a winless team, and the fact that it's the NFL, anything can happen. But like I said before, both of us think the Dolphins will take care of business and take care of business in a rout on Sunday. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I want to thank you guys always for tuning in, as well as bearing with the flickering lights in this office for those watching on YouTube. Got a little bit of early Halloween. Reminder, as always, subscribe to the Miami Herald, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page. I put Miami Herald first because David always emphasizes that. But subscribe to both. We will be back next week to recap another weekend of Dolphins football. But until then, you guys take care. See you.
Bye.